Good evening. We are going to get started, and I know we'll have some more people joining us, but we want to make sure we honor our time together. So thank you all so much for being here. I am Terry Bresnahan, the Superintendent of School District 59. I'm very proud to be here tonight to share some information as a Brentwood school community, as well as really make this as interactive as possible and hear from all of you. I want to first start by saying those of you who have our streamer services in front of you on your laptops, we are live translating with a new program called Streamer, and it actually provides languages that we have pre-selected. So right now we're streaming in Spanish as well as Russian. So you will see everything I'm saying on your device in the language that you have selected. If you prefer, you can put your headphones on and you can hear it as well. So if you are a fast reader, because I know I am somewhat of a fast talker, please go ahead and you may use the headphones. If you prefer and would like to follow along with the reading, you are welcome to do that. How's it going so far? Thumbs up? It's going well for our en español? ¿Sí o no? ¿Sí? Okay. Thank you. Okay. I want to start off with just some introductions and a welcome to our event tonight. I want to first recognize, I think she probably is still standing at the front, but our fearless principal at Brentwood, Dr. Kim Barrett, who really helped orchestrate this event for us this evening. She rode buses, made phone calls, made sure that people were really aware of the event tonight, and I think our turnout is a reflection of her work, as well as Ms. Doles, the assistant principal, and many of our staff. If you are a Brentwood staff member, can you raise your hands for me? There we go. Thank you all so much for being here. There is Dr. Barrett. We had the opportunity to meet with all staff last Wednesday. They got a preview of the presentation and were actually able to give us some feedback, which was really helpful. And they're combined at your table. So we have family members, parents, staff members, because we want to make sure that tonight's an opportunity for all voices to be heard and to share information about important future decisions that are coming. I also want to recognize that we have some of our board members who are in the room with us tonight. They are here as observers of this process. They are not here to interact or provide their own feedback, but they're really here to hear and learn from all of you and from our team tonight. So we have Mr. Mancia over here. We have Mardell Schumacher over sitting in the back. And where is Joe? Joe, right up here, right in front. Dr. Sager, right here up front with us here. And then we have some of our new board members who will be joining us at our May board meeting, who are with us this night as well. I know T.R. Johnson was unable to attend tonight. Sarah is joining us in the back. Welcome, Sarah. And was Lucas, has he arrived yet? I'm not sure if I saw Lucas come in. So be sure to say hello, and as we have our members here. I also want to just recognize the many administrative members that are here, members of the superintendent's leadership team, our district leadership team, Dr. Perdomo, who has really made this streaming services available to us tonight. Thank you so much for all of your help. We have Mr. Tiarina here with us, who is the head of our facilities, a very important person who knows this building inside and out, so he can hear and learn and answer questions as well. So all of my district leaders, please raise your hand, give a wave. They are going to be facilitators at your tables as well. We also have one more group that I want to just make sure that we acknowledge. So here with us tonight is members of an architecture firm, Wold Architects. So we have Mike Eichhorn, and is Allison here with us? Allison, way hi, thank you. They are partnering with the district to engage with us in doing some educational alignment studies for our 3 junior highs as well as Brentwood to really analyze and to learn from all of you so that we can build the best long-term solution to address our issues. So we're very grateful to have them with us here tonight. So we already covered the streamer translation services. Also at your table, you have slips of paper in the center. Those are exit slips. Throughout the evening, if there are questions you have at the end of the night, that's English and Spanish, please fill that out and you can leave that with us. That way we can make sure your voice is heard if you don't get an opportunity to share tonight. As well as this entire event is being video recorded. So if you see in the back, we have cameras set up. That way this presentation will be made available to our entire District 59 community so everyone can hear and learn and have that available on our website. Okay, with that, we are going to jump into our agenda. So we already did our welcome and introductions. The first thing we're going to talk about is just an overview of our current conditions. Many of you have heard and have seen through board discussions or other communications that have come from the district that we are really looking at how our spaces are used. Some spaces have a greater use and less capacity at their schools. Some have a lot more available. And so we've really been looking at how our spaces are utilized and just what are those trends over time as we look at our students, our enrollment, our class sizes, and other data points. We're gonna have opportunities tonight for small group discussions. So you are predetermined to be at the tables that you are at, and you will be discussing certain topics tonight. And the facilitator at your table will be recording your thoughts so that we can collect them all and share them and really hopefully understand not only am I getting an opportunity to share my perspective, but an opportunity to learn and to share other people's perspectives as well. Then we're gonna be able to have a whole group discussion about that. We'll be able to see everybody's feedback. And then we will talk kind of timeline and next steps. How do we really start to problem solve and provide solutions? So tonight is not about how we are going to solve this problem. Tonight is the opportunity to learn what are the current challenges, and what do we all think about potential solutions that might happen, and how would those impact us? Okay, so let's dig in a little bit to data. So we're gonna look at our enrollment trends over time, how our space here at Brentwood has been utilized. Looking in particular, this past year, we added our portable classrooms, and we know that those will not be staying for too much longer. We also want to review what our school and our property boundaries are for Brentwood in particular, as well as what programming needs are offered for our students and how does that impact our enrollment and how we operate here at Brentwood. Okay, so this is a lot of data. We're gonna get into some tables that'll make this a little clearer. So what I want you to see over here is we have a 10-year time frame. So we go all the way from 2013-14 all the way to our current year. And going across, we wanna just really look at what has our total enrollment been? How does that break down across our race, our ethnicities, as well as our demographic groups? Because that all impacts the services that we provide and how we best provide education to all students. This piece over here, you might ask why that is important. As a school district, we are required by law to ensure that we provide and recognize balance amongst demographic groups across our individual school boundaries. So keep that perspective in mind so that we can really look at how changes over time have impacted us. So we're gonna jump into a graph that's gonna hopefully more clearly display. So this is our enrollment. All the way to the left is 10 years ago, all the way to the right is our current. And it's really interesting because we're exactly the same number of students as we were 10 years ago, but we've had some spikes in the middle and then some declines since that time from that 18-19 school year, which was our highest point. I also want to point out real quick, sorry if we go back one slide. When we are looking at running a school, an elementary school, we want to make sure that we have enough students to really provide a robust and rich environment for our students. Brentwood has no problem about meeting the minimum threshold. We are well above that minimum. Okay, next one is our race and ethnicity. So you can see these are broken down by our different race and ethnic groups over time. So starting to the left, again, 10 years ago to today. You can see, looking at that blue line, our students who classify as white are from 48% to today it is at 31%. Our Hispanic population, 10 years ago, that green line was at 16%, and today is at 34%. Asian has remained a little bit steadier, from 27 over to 22. And then our smaller populations, our African American Black population, has stayed relatively steady with slight growth from 6% to 8%. Those classified with 2 or more races went from 1% to 5%. And our American Indian has gone from what has remained steady across the years, 1%. So this just gives you some perspective about how our community here at Brentwood has evolved and changed over the last 10 years. When we look specifically at demographics, we are required to report out to the state across our economic levels. So when we look at students and families that qualify for low income, that has changed from 41% to an increase to 58%. Our English learners, those qualifying for language services based on when they enroll in the district, that has changed from 33% to 54% over the last 10 years. We also thought it was really important and relevant to include our newcomer data. So newcomers are students who are brand new to the United States school system within the last 2 years. Oftentimes, those students may require some language services or other supports. We have seen an influx in Illinois, and in particular in this area, on our newcomers. So we had an increase from 6%, some spikes along the way, and we're at 9%. And then our final group that we want to make sure we pay careful attention to as well is IEP. Those are students who qualify for special education through an individualized education plan. And that has gone from 6% 10 years ago up to 8.5% today. All of these things I share with you because they impact how we provide services within our classrooms. They impact the staff that we need to hire each year in order to provide those services. So collectively, we have to look at all of this information as we try to build a solution for us. Okay, space utilization. This is a key one. This is actually our physical building, and our architects hopefully are listening over here. So when we look at our space utilization, we're talking about how many students could fit in our building. Now, if you think about 100%, 100% would mean students in every available inch of space within our building. Our target is actually ideally at about 75%. That gives us room to do some small group instruction. It gives us room to have class sizes that change from when we have a big 3rd grade that's going to go up to 4th grade. Adding some of our additional staff and support staff that now need office spaces. All of that impacts our capacity. So you can see over time, 10 years ago we were at 88%. We're exactly there now, and we had major spikes in those 2 years in the middle that got to 96 and 98%. That impacts the way your students experience their education. It impacts whether or not we provide services sitting in a hallway or whether they're sitting in a chair in a classroom. It impacts whether or not our teachers and our staff have a place to eat their lunch, which currently they do not. All of those things are represented in these data points that you see up here. Okay, let's go to the next one. So when we think about space utilization and what our actual needs are, we can think about it from different perspectives. We can think about it from students. So we need classrooms to learn in, where we have space to move around and receive instruction. We want to be able to accommodate small group learning. That happens way more today than it did 10, 20 years ago. Way more than it probably happened for many of us when we were in school. So being able to pull small groups of students and work with them in smaller spaces is a real essential part of what we do today in education. We need specialized spaces for art and music. So you know the portables came into play, because prior to that, they had to put all of their materials on a cart and then roll that into classroom to classroom to classroom. So think about how limited your opportunities are for learning art and music when you're using traditional classroom space as opposed to a space that's designated for that particular teaching. Our physical education space, we now provide more physical education and opportunities for art and music for our students, but we're limited in how much space we have, so that impacts our ability to schedule those things for our students. Our LRC, our Library Resource Center, where we have all our books and our media and opportunities for students to collaborate, that's an essential space, as well as you gotta keep in mind our exterior space too, playgrounds, right? Physical activity and play and access to that. Brentwood is actually in the process, with, thanks to Mr. Tiarina for coordinating that we will have a new playground equipment coming in, I believe this summer, so very exciting there. So those are all spaces that impact students. Okay, let's go now to staff spaces, because we know that we can't teach students if we don't have staff, right? So staff spaces, we need to have those spaces where staff can work. We need spaces for our ESL resource, those staff that work specifically with students who need some of our second language learning. Literacy and math interventionists. We talk a lot about that with our board, about how we're providing and filling in those gaps for students so that they can get to on-grade level instruction. Special education has requirements itself and how we provide services. TDP, our Gifted and Talented program, space for our instructional coach who works with staff, as well as our community outreach specialists. They currently work in what looks like a little mini phone booth almost. Very limited spaces that grown staff are actually working out of due to lack of space here. As well as I mentioned, a space for teachers and staff to work and have their meals together, which we know is an essential part when you are at work for, 8+ hours a day. Okay, then we're looking at not only what our humans need, our students and our staff, but we also have to prioritize safety. You know, here in this room, there is a limit on the number of people who are allowed to be in this room, right? Fire departments set these numbers. So we have to adhere to certain things to make sure that we can safely arrive to school, that we can safely dismiss from school, that we can accommodate walkers, we can accommodate the buses, we can accommodate the kiss and drive as parents are dropping off their kids. And how many of you drop your children off at school? Anyone? Is that a positive experience or a stressful experience? Anyone who's ever had to drop their child off at school, right? It can be smooth if we have systems in place. It can be a really stressful time, and we have little ones who are walking across our streets trying to get to school safely. So we want to make sure that we have that accommodated, as well as parking. Our staff members here, how are we doing on parking? Is it enough or is it not? I'm seeing thumbs down. And anyone that has to come to the building for a meeting or something, you're parking on the street or trying to find a place to be. So we know parking is limited. I think you just had an event here last week, and a huge turnout, and parking is a challenge when that happens. Okay, these are just some images. If you've never had an opportunity to tour the school, you can see this is a hallway that's actually being used as our book room. So those are books for students that teachers use instructionally. They're lining a hallway right now. We have office/storage space for PE. This is an example of how tight a small group learning space looks like for our students here at Brentwood. So part of what we did as a short-term solution was to install portable classrooms. That really helped us provide that dedicated space for art and music. Heard lots of positive things about them, but they are not meant to be a permanent structure. The village ordinance will not allow for those to be here for longer than 1 year. We are actually in the process of trying to navigate that to get a variance so that we can extend them for one more year, because we want to take the time to do this process and come up with a real long-term solution. But we know having portable structures is not something that we want to have all the time for our students. They deserve better, and we can do better. School boundaries. This is a really interesting one. So if you look, this is all of District 59 over here. And then as you look over here, you can see the cutouts along the black borders are where we have Brentwood. We are adjacent to Robert Frost, and then we are just north of Devonshire. So the important thing to know about boundaries are established by the Board of Education. They have changed over time. Where students live has changed over time. We've seen some communities grow. We've seen some communities decline. But within each of these boundaries, there are students and there are families. So if we move a line, we are moving families. And not only are we impacting Brentwood, but we're going to impact Frost, which we did this year when we moved our kindergarten and dual language classrooms over there. We impacted Devonshire. So everything we do that changes has an impact not only here, but throughout all of District 59. And so I want you to just keep that in mind, because it seems like a simple way to change capacity issues. But just understand, what does that do demographically to our buildings? What does that do to our programming? And how does that impact other schools within our school district community? Okay? Second part of boundaries, though, is also property boundaries. Because it may also really seem easy, why don't we just build out? We could just build a bigger school. So see the red line? That is the property that District 59 owns. To the right, where there is field space, that is not owned by District 59. So that property is actually owned by Mount Prospect Park District. So if we were to do anything that would impact that boundary line, we would have to enter into negotiations with the Park District of Mount Prospect in order to have any considerations for using any of that space. Okay? So again, these are things all to sit in your mind as we have these discussions coming up. Okay, programming. This gets a little bit more complicated, but programming is based on what your child needs. Programming is not optional. Access to services that students qualify for is a right, and it is a legal obligation of our school district. So it's not that we choose to have some things and we can choose to not have other things. We get all of our students, we find out what their needs are, and then we find the best way to provide them. So when we look at our monolingual, that means that they are in an English class where English is the mode of communication and learning. We have 45.96% of our families that whose students are in monolingual classrooms. English learners, those are students who may receive dual language. And here at Brentwood, that dual language would be English and Spanish. Or ESL, which is a part-time service, so you would be in a monolingual classroom, but you would receive supports from other teachers in your native language, in Spanish. So collectively, that group is 54% of our Brentwood families. And you can see the breakdown here. TDP, which are those students who qualify for our Gifted and Talented program, that makes up 15.5%. I'm going to throw a few more numbers at you over here, just for the sake of the conversation. We actually have 62 students who are not in this number, who live in your Brentwood community, but attend schools elsewhere within District 59. So we have 9 students who were in dual language Spanish kindergarten that moved over to Frost this current year. 1 student who had an older sibling that they wanted to stay with that also moved over to Frost so that they could stay together. We have 25 students in our Brentwood community who are part of our dual language program in Polish, which is offered at Claremont. And 17 students who chose the two-way dual language program, and they attend John Jay or Juliet Low. And then additional 10 students who are attending Ridge, which is a choice school, or they've opted for open enrollment to attend another school within our district. So we have 62 more students that could be here, but their programming is elsewhere within the district, or their parents and families have made choices, okay? So I'm gonna stop for 1 second because we want your feedback. Okay, so we have a tool, it's Mentimeter. If you have a phone, you can go ahead and capture that QR code up at the screen. If you are on a laptop, you could go to menti.com and you can enter this numeric code because we're gonna ask for your feedback about what do you value most about your child's experience at Brentwood. If you are a staff member or community member, you may say, what from your perspective do you value most about children getting their education here at Brentwood? And if we can look real quick, they're gonna enter 3 words, is that correct? 3 single words that you have to think of about what do you value most. So for example, you may say teachers. You may say friends. You may say learning. You're gonna pick 3 words about what you value most about your child's experience at Brentwood. It is open now, so grab the QR code, or you can go to facilitators, if you could help at your table to make sure everyone has access that they need. Yes, en español o inglés? So Mr. Gray, can we look at the live results as they start to come in? All right, so we're seeing some words come in. The bigger the word, the more people who have also written the same word. Education, diversity, teachers, safety, staff, community. Location, opportunity, education staying big in the middle. Diversity, right up there. Safety, staff, education. Teachers like Mr. Morales. All right. Instructional spaces. Good teachers. Valued. Los maestros, the teachers. La seguridad, safety. Okay, has everyone had a chance to enter their words? So we're gonna capture all this and save it, and we'll include this as part of what we share back out to the community. But this represents all of you. What is it most important? The smaller the words, the less that they were chosen, but that doesn't mean that they are less important to you. But it gives you a perspective within this room of what we really value here at Brentwood School Community. All right, so feel free to keep going. We're gonna move on to the next piece, another interactive. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the things that impact your child and what matters to you and rating the importance of these things. So we talked about class sizes. If the class is too big, how does that impact you? If the class is very small, how does that impact you and your child? Student diversity. Is it important for you to be with children who are all the same as your child? Is it important for your children to experience children who are different than them? And what does that mean to you? Access to programming. Is it important that they have dual language here at Brentwood and TDP and ESL? And then physical environment. Do they have access to daylight? Is the temperature okay for learning? Do they have comfortable furniture that they could sit in that's age appropriate? Are we too crowded in our spaces? Do we have access to gym and physical spaces and exterior spaces to play? Do we have art and music spaces where we can be creative? So that's what these 4 categories are. So you're gonna stay on menti.com. You now should be on slide number 2. Let's see if Mr. Gray has advanced that. He is coordinating everything in the back so seamlessly. Okay, so when we go to the next one, if I can show the screenshot of that, you are going to rate how important these are to you. 1 means this is not important at all to me. 5 means this is very important to me. You can rate them all 5s. You can rate them all 1s. It's up to you how you rate these in terms of how important are those 4 things to you as a parent or as a staff member completing this. So go ahead and submit your responses. So class sizes, student diversity, access to programming, and physical environment. All right. So again, this information will be captured, so we'll have that to include when we share the presentation. Okay, so we want to get to the heart of why we are here tonight, which is to hear from all of you with your discussion at your tables. Okay, so now we need to talk about what are the things we can do as a school district that can make things better for our students and for our facility. There are typically 4 things that we can do that we have access to. Many of these require board approval, some do not, but a lot of it requires planning and input, which is why we're starting here. So we could adjust boundaries. That's one of the things that we have done as a district in the past. We can move those boundary lines, move portions of our communities into other schools. We could renovate and construct spaces. Keep in mind the picture of the boundaries. We have some limitations, but we could renovate spaces within our existing building. We could potentially add on. But again, keep in mind, how does that impact not only today, but long-term, and how does that impact other schools around us? We can adjust class sizes. Remember those 2 enrollment years that really spiked up almost to like 500, stayed below 500, but were higher? When we asked the staff what happened, how did we accommodate that many more students in those years? And staff, what did you respond? They had higher class sizes because we didn't get any more classrooms. So we put more students in classrooms. Last year, we had a classroom with 34 students by the end of the year. 34. Meanwhile, in other parts of our district, we had some classes with 9. So when we up class sizes here and we see lower class sizes elsewhere, those are the things that we have to keep in mind. We have done a really good job this year of prioritizing reducing class sizes, but that comes with a cost that came with putting in portable classrooms. And how can we do that over the long run? And then the last one is to relocate programs. So some schools do not offer all programs. Here at Brentwood, we offer dual language, Spanish. So part of the question and solution may be, do we offer all these programs at Brentwood? Do we continue to do that? And the community needs to hear from each other about the importance of how does that impact our school community when we do that. So your opportunities at your tables, and for pretty much the remainder of our time together, is you're going to be in small group discussions around those 4 things. But in schools, we love to have norms. We love to have shared agreements about how we work together when we are collaborating and in groups. So many of these actually came from some of our very own staff here at Brentwood. So I just want to share this because you have diversity of thought, and we want to respect everybody else's opinions and time, and I want to honor your time that we're going to be ending by. Each topic is going to have a time limit of no more than 10 minutes. So I'm going to keep us on time. Facilitators are going to be the recorders. They're going to make sure all of your thoughts are recorded and shared electronically, and then you'll be able to see them. We want everyone to share your own voice and perspective. What we don't want to hear is, well, why don't we just move those families? Why don't we just build a school for these groups of people? Share from your own perspective and make sure that we're not speaking on behalf of others. We want to ask questions if we need to clarify. We want to respect each other's views, even when we disagree. We want to share your views willingly. I hope everyone at every table gets an opportunity to have their voice heard today. And then we're going to respect the time limits of the discussion. And keep in mind, you have your exit slips. If there's something that we didn't get captured, add it onto the exit slip. Okay? So, the first topic coming up is we are going to consider the impacts of the actions we can take at Brentwood, and we're going to discuss. Our facilitators are going to use this tool. It's called Jamboard. We sometimes use these with students to collect thoughts. So the first one, as our facilitators get to this is your first table talk. Consider the impacts of adjusting boundaries. And I'm just giving you some guiding questions to think about as you discuss these at your tables. How will this change impact our school, Brentwood? How might this change impact other schools in District 59? Does this impact all students, or does it only impact a particular group of students? And what is the short-term gains by doing this versus the long-term gains? Is this a short-term solution or something that really in the long term is going to benefit us? So just some guiding questions. I am going to set my timer for I'm actually going to set it for 8 minutes, so then we could pull it back together and see our results. Facilitators, you are going to start your feedback Post-it notes by starting with your table number. That way we can ensure every table is able to enter. So represent your comment with your table number, then your comments from your small groups. Facilitators, do you understand the directions? Awesome. Participants, do you all understand the directions? Okay, awesome. I'm gonna start the timer. Go for it. Okay, if you wanna close out your final thoughts, we're gonna move on to the second one. Lots of great discussion happening. Facilitators, excellent job. Lots of good questions being asked to determine impacts. I really am reading a lot of thoughtful feedback about how this impacts the school community as a whole. But what are some of the logistical things that we can do? Some short-term versus long-term pieces. Impacts on students. Living in some uncertainty. Having that collective, our students learning from each other. So lots of great information here, and we're going to be collecting all of this and really looking at what are some of the trends and themes that we're seeing in your feedback and be able to share that back out with the community and with the school board. Okay, so we're going to, facilitators at the top, there's an arrow that you can use to go to our second discussion. So we're going to go back to the presentation, but facilitators, that's how you're going to move for our next small, our table talk. So if we could go back to the presentation, thank you. Okay, table talk number 2. This is the impacts of renovating and doing construction on our spaces. So how will this change impact our school? How does this impact our neighborhood and the people who share spaces around Brentwood? How does this impact the safety and traffic flow around our school? And again, what are short and long-term impacts? A really good perspective to keep in mind, who remembers where we are with our capacity? What % capacity are we at as a school? 88% capacity. Does anyone know what the lowest capacity percentage is in District 59? We're at about 43% in one of our schools. So keep in mind, as you're talking about this, we have to think collectively as a district because we have schools that are sitting over half empty. And now we have some schools that are at capacity. So think about that in terms of what are the impact of these changes that we make here on us as a district, and not only just here at Brentwood. Okay, so at your tables, I'm gonna give you 10 minutes once again. Go ahead and facilitate that conversation and enter those notes into our Jamboard. Impacts of renovating and constructing spaces. And I love the feedback on what are the things we need to know more about before we would make one of these decisions. Those were some good table talks as well. We are going to go to table talk, action number 3, please. So this is talking about class sizes. We talked a little bit about that during the presentation and how those have fluctuated here at Brentwood. So how is this change going to impact our school? How does it impact our students? How does this change impact our staff? And again, short-term, long-term. What is that? We saw it as a pretty important aspect listed on our Mentimeter when you rated how important those were. So have that discussion at your tables according to how we adjust class sizes. And again, thinking too big, too small, right in the middle. And really, I'm very curious from our parent perspective, what is that ideal class size? I think it would be very interesting to see staff versus our families and what their expectations are. So go ahead and have that conversation. I'm going to set the timer, and we will keep going. Okay, table talk number 4. This is the last one. Consider the impacts of relocating programs. So moving programs that are housed within Brentwood and moving them over into other schools. This has been one of the most widely used practices in District 59 over the last forever. I look to Mr. Ludloff as our resident historian who has outlined every change that has been made, and many, many moves have resulted in the movement of programs over the years. Because it seems like it's the easiest one. It impacts the smallest number of people. But over time, it has collected, and we've seen what the results of those changes have made in our district. So I want you to really think about how would relocating any of our programs at Brentwood, how would that impact our school and our school community? How might that impact other schools within District 59? How does it impact different groups of students? So not only how might it impact you or not impact you, but how might it impact other students who your child goes to school with? And then again, those short-term and long-term impacts as we make those moves as a district. So this is the final one. Then we're going to kind of close out our discussions and wrap up and give you a timeline and next steps. So we're going to take 10 minutes for our final table talk. Go ahead and discuss those with your tables and enter those final pieces into the Jamboard. Thank you. All right, and Mr. Gray is going to throw up our last Jamboard for us to see collectively. Look at all of those amazing thoughts you have been able to capture in a very short amount of time. So when we look collectively at these, I'm seeing some things specifically around dual. Why does it have to be them? What is that impact? What is the impact on SEL? It feels like segregation. Impact on having friends, staff morale, building connections, having negative impacts when we move students. All of those things collectively, those are what matter to you, to your families, and to our children. So hopefully what you've seen is that we have a lot of diversity of thought, but collectively, we all care deeply about our students. Regardless of what our opinions are, we all want what is best, not just for our own children, but for all children. And that is what I know is the mission of District 59 and the commitment that we have made to ensuring that not only today, but in the long term, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, do we have the kind of schools that are helping every child be successful? Are we responsive and flexible to the needs of the students who are in front of us today. Schools should look different than they did 15 years ago. They should look different than when we went to school, because our world looks different today as well. So how are we going to work together to ensure that we take all of this feedback and collectively come up with a plan so that we can make sure our students here at Brentwood and in all of our schools in District 59 are receiving what they need? Your children are here for a very brief amount of time. I think we can all attest how fast it goes and our kids grow up. So we want to maximize and feel that sense of urgency to find solutions today, but to do it patiently enough that we can come up with the right solution. So I appreciate all of your time here today. We are going to be working and capturing all of this, looking for trends, and then being able to share that back out as part of our video and as part of the presentation so that you can really take some time and sit and see what did your other community members think, what did some of the staff members think who were at your tables and in this room. So I want to thank all of you for your time. It was a commitment to come here tonight away from your families. Many of you who brought your children, I think they are being very well cared for and enjoying their time here. But thank you for your commitment to coming and not only learning, but sharing your voice and your perspective. That I think is a very important goal that I have as a superintendent, as well as I know our board members have. What are our families feeling and thinking as we try to solve some of these solutions? Problems with solutions. So in closing, I want to just go to our next steps and give you a little bit of a timeline, and then I'm going to have someone come up and share a little bit about one of our next steps. So we're going to take all of this feedback. We want to make sure too, if you have those exit slips, something that didn't get mentioned that you didn't see captured on that Jamboard, please make sure you fill that out, leave that with us. You can always continue to connect with your children's teachers, with Dr. Barrett, with me, with members of SLT, with our board. They're all here to receive your feedback as well. We will then be having some discussions with our board, because ultimately those decisions get made at the board table, and we want to make sure that they have everything they need to make the best decisions possible. We're also going to be embarking on something called an educational alignment study. So as I mentioned at the very beginning when we did introductions, we have two representatives here from Wold Architects. They specialize in this area of really looking at buildings, not just as floors and windows and ceilings, but spaces for learning and caring for children. So we want to take a look at our facility here, as well as we're going to start with our 3 junior high schools, and looking at them, do our buildings meet the needs of our learning today and into the future? And they really partner with us and partner with you as a community to get your feedback, similar to what we did tonight, talking with groups of people to get your perspective, and then just give us data. They are not hired to give us the solutions. They are hired to tell us the data and the information in a way that we can then digest and review with our board as another data point about how we're serving students. So I'm going to actually ask Mike Eichhorn to come up and share with us a little bit about the educational alignment study and what that process is going to look like, particularly for Brentwood.
Thank you, Dr. Bresnahan. Mike Eichhorn from Wold Architects. So in May, our architects and planners will be walking the buildings, interviewing the principals and the staff, observing how you're using all the spaces throughout the day, what's occurring, what are some of the challenges, and really understanding how the building is aligning with the way you want to deliver education, and seeing how accessibility to the different students is taking place, and really, again, gathering data in an objective way and then bringing it back to the community. Over the summer, we'll also be going through the buildings as well, looking at maps and circulation and flow and safety on the site. Many of the things that you were talking about today, we're going to take that information and fold that into a report, which will be given in September, kind of our findings and what we're observing. And again, it's not about a solution, it's about documenting how you're using the spaces and what are the concerns here with the community. So it's a great opportunity, and it's really exciting to see everybody here and listen kind of firsthand what you're talking about, because I think you share a lot of values and comments. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So look forward to more information about that opportunity in the future, because they will be wanting to collect some of this information, and especially with our staff and being in the buildings, which is an exciting opportunity. It gives us a new lens to look at our buildings and how we're meeting the learning needs of our students today. Again, because spaces look different. If we were to build a brand new building today, would you want it to look exactly like our schools look now? Yes or no? Hold them up high. Let's go. Students, hold it. Give me a would you want them to look exactly like what we have now, or would you want it to look different? Right? It should be meeting the needs of what we want for our students, not only today, but for many years to come. So that is a really exciting opportunity when we think about it. But we also recognize the current struggles and challenges that we face today. We have an obligation as a district to provide a solution. Not everybody is going to agree with what the solution is. Sometimes these solutions take sacrifice and make changes, and we are obligated to make those for the better for the long term. So I hope you all keep that in mind, how we serve the greater good, not only for our children who are in front of us today, but really many children who will be coming through these doors for many, many years to come. So again, I want to thank you for your time tonight. I want to give a big round of applause to all of our facilitators. They were doing an amazing job tonight. Thank you all so much. Amazing educators. I saw a lot of good back and forth conversation. I want to absolutely thank everyone who also made sure that everyone had access to the information in the language that they needed it. So thank you for all of those who are our gifted bilingual translators for tonight. Thank you so much. And to Dr. Perdomo for bringing Streamer to us. For all of those who are using Streamer, how did you like it? Positive, negative, maybe in the middle? Right? And we can actually save everything that was recorded, and we can have printouts of that information too. So pretty cool service. We're going to continue to use it, hopefully more so in the future. So keep in mind also, if you have any final feedback, questions, data that didn't get presented that you would really like more information on, things that you want the board to make sure they know, that you want administrators to know, please make sure you leave that on your exit slip and leave that either at your table or hand it to maybe Dr. Barrett or myself on your way out. Please take some food for the road, because we don't want to leave this here at school. And I just want to personally thank all of you, all of our staff for staying tonight. Thank you again for your time, and thank you for your shared commitment to District 59 and making education better for all students. Thank you.